Hello and welcome to the next episode of Let's Talk Brand, the first in Poland series of video interviews with world-class branding experts. Like before, I have not one but two guests. You might already know them as I'm going to chat with Richard Sauerman and Marcin Kalkhoff. I will talk with my guests about a topic related to trust, truth, and authenticity. If you want to listen to my previous conversation with these experts, just click the links. You can also read the bio, which is below. Hope you will enjoy this conversation. Hi, Richard. Hi, Marcin.
Hey, Lucas.
Hi, man.
It's so wonderful to have you both here because I see a lot of similarities as you both say what you think, even it may be an inconvenient, painful truth. And what I would like to speak with you today is I would like to speak with you about trust, truth, empathy, and authenticity. So actually, these are the keywords for today's friendly, I hope, conversation. And I do think that authenticity has become a buzzword. Everyone is speaking about authenticity. You have to be authentic. And it's quite easy for me to understand how to be authentic when I think about my or someone else's personal brand. But how about authenticity in the corporate world? And actually, what does it mean for you both? Authenticity or authentic communication? And I would like to start with you, Richard.
Oh, okay. Well, brands are not people, okay, as you just pointed out. So how can a brand be authentic? But when we build brands, we know that we create a brand identity. We have a brand voice and who we are, and we might use archetypes and personas. And I think authenticity is being true to that, is being, so in other words, it's on brief, if you know what I mean. It's like, it's what you would expect and how you would expect a brand to behave in terms of its ideals, its values, its identity. It needs to be consistent across everything it says and everything it does as well. And that's kind of where we can go in the conversation. Ultimately, it's all about walking the talk, I believe.
Okay. And Marcin, how about you?
Well, something which is opposite, because brands are created by people. And where brand managers are authentic, the brand becomes authentic as well. So everything comes from the people mind. Brand is a virtual creature, right? So it's not something real. You cannot shake hand with the brand. But the matter of fact, most of us are personalizing the brands.
Yep.
So because as children, we given names to our toys, to our cars, small cars, and stuff like that.
Yep.
And the matter of fact, we are perceiving the world via human beings. So at the end of the day, we're perceiving the brands the same way. So that's how you can create the brand authentic or non-authentic. And the matter of fact, I don't know a lot of brands that are really authentic.
So it
seems to say that at the beginning.
So it seems quite easy to be an authentic brand, and still there's not so many authentic brands on the market. So how this authenticity can emanate through communication?
Via people's mouth, via communication. This is as you have to be real. That's as simple as that.
What does it mean to be real? I know, because then you go to the company's website and it's not real at all. There's a lot of
so it's not authentic.
There's a lot of stock photo. Okay,
that's it. Like I said, Robin, that's it. Thank you.
The whole thing, you're right. Authenticity is a big marketing brand buzzword at the moment. Like everyone's talking about it, like are you authentic and all that. But from a purely one point of view, it's like, is it on brief? What's the brand persona? What's the brand tone of voice? What are the values? What's the brand idea? And are you behaving consistently in your communications to that? But the other part of that is, is do you walk your talk, you know, as an organization? So are you honest? Are you open? Are you vulnerable? If you stuff up, do you admit it and go, yeah, we stuffed up, you know, and own stuff? Or do you try and cover things and, you know, play that game? So for me, it's, you know, branding is not just a marketing thing. And you know this, and I think Marcin, you know this as well. You know, branding is a leadership thing. It starts at the top, and it starts on the inside of the business, and it drives everything the business does, you know, and is. And then you go out and tell the world about it as well. And when you've got that alignment and that truth between, you know, what you say and what you do, that creates authenticity, you know, in a way that wasn't needed before. I mean, back in the 70s and the 80s, you know, let's say Unilever would run ads for Lynx and for Dove and for, you know, Palmolive, whatever. And no one knew who made those products. You know, no one knew there was a big company called Unilever, you know, back then, because no one cared. No one wanted to know. But now people are like, so who's the company that owns these brands? Oh, Unilever. Okay. So what are they doing? And are they sustainable? And they're doing good stuff? And, you know, so the whole thing's become much more open and transparent, I think. And that's why there's a need. But it's been quite a long, you know, it's been, I mean, I don't know why authenticity is such a new thing. I'm not sure, because for me, it's always been, that's been the thing. Is you get authenticity and truth, and what does it lead to? Trust. And it's all about trust. You know, trust is the greatest currency in the world of branding and marketing. Where you've got people trusting you and all the goodwill and the feelings that go with that, like that's it. So in any relationship, how do you get trust? You walk your talk, you know, you're genuine, you're authentic, you're truthful. You know, these are the things that generate trust. And you can't just talk. You've got to show actions as well. You know, actions speak louder than words. So it's all of that that comes into it. It doesn't just sit in the marketing area. It's the whole entity and how it behaves, I believe, is really important.
Okay, so the secret sauce of trust is the authenticity and the truth. Can you both give an example of the brands which for you are really authentic? Do you have an example, or maybe not from the Australian market, because these brands might not be known?
Really authentic? There is no example all over the world. Sorry. Well, but
really?
let me add a small point to what Richard said. Yes, because authenticity, there is a metaphor to the actor. When you are employing the actor and you are giving him the role, which is as close as possible to his real life, he's acting much better than when he have to play someone totally different from himself. So where you are establishing a brand which is close to owner or company point of view, company philosophy, the brand becomes more authentic than another one. But still it isn't, because this is the role playing. So there is a play. There is no human behind the brand. This is virtual creature still. There is no 100% authenticity in the brand. You cannot expect it even. So don't ask me personally for authentic brands. There is no authentic brands at all. There are brands who are closer to authenticity and much farther from. No one.
I mean, I think, it's, I mean, part of that authenticity is also having a purpose at the heart of who you are. And the purpose is, you know, like, okay, if you're any good as a business or a brand, you're going to make money, but that's not your purpose. Your purpose is your contribution to society, to people, to life, you know? And it's a massive consumer expectation now that companies have that, you know, and they have that purpose. But even there, you get this phenomena called purpose washing, you know, where companies, you know, fly up this flag saying, oh, we stand for this and all that, but it's kind of tokenism and it's not done properly. And it's totally inauthentic, in fact. And that's quite a big thing at the moment, a lot of purpose washing. So like here in Sydney, I was saying to you guys just now, we've got World Pride, okay, for 2 weeks. And all the companies here are jumping on and showing their support for World Pride. Well, yeah, that's great. And they got the World Pride colors and their logos and all that. and it's a good thing, you know. But like, yeah, is this just a one-off? I mean, is this something that you authentically actually, you know, sits close to your heart as an organization, or is it just a nice message to give to your employees who are LGBTQ, you know, to say we support you? It's quite interesting because every single brand, even Uber, you know, the little Uber, you get the map with a little Uber car that shows you where it's at. Well, the Uber car is painted in the in the World Pride colors on my phone. I'm looking at it yesterday going, oh shit, look at that, you know. So even Uber's coming in. So I immediately think, yeah, well, that's kind of cool, but is that authentic? I mean, have Uber kind of made a stance on this? Is this a thing that they champion, or is this something? And maybe it is. Oh, I don't know. I've never heard of it before. So I was sort of thinking about it in that way. Maybe I was overthinking it, but I don't know, you know.
We don't know the motivation.
It's just, it's a thing that's going on, and all the brands jump on the bandwagon. Okay, so in one sense, I'm saying great, it's a good thing, lots of support for, you know, okay, wonderful. But then is it just looking good? You know, how authentic are all these brands that are jumping on this bandwagon? How authentically? So here in Australia, we have Qantas. Okay, so Qantas have always stood for LGBTQ because especially a lot of the air crew are gay. Okay. And they've always hired them over the years, and that's been the thing, and they've always been at the forefront of that and all that. So Qantas have got a partner, okay, a flight partner, a global one, called Emirates, okay? So Emirates is from the land and the country that makes homosexuality illegal and punishable by death. You know what I'm saying? So you can't have it both ways, guys. You can't be, you know, advocates and champions of LGBTQ, and then, you know, have a business deal going with Emirates. You know, it's you know, it's like that there's a problem, and so there's a, you know, that's not authentic just in itself. And so if you dig deep enough, you know, I think Marcin's a bit right there. It's really hard to find a truly authentic brand in the way that we would expect a person to be authentic. You know. Not hypocritical and you know, and totally true to what you stand for and who you are. It's quite rare, that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Marcin, you were about to say something.
Well, yes and no. Give us another question, because it's really hard to add anything to what Richard said, because I totally agree with him.
Okay.
So it's hard to add anything.
Okay. So it's good. Okay. I've never heard this expression that the purpose washing, but what I see on the Polish market is that sometimes the purpose is a fancy name for corporate social responsibility, but that's another story, and it's not the same. And it's not the same. But what about the truth? What do you think is more important, truth or credibility, or is the truth the key? Because after all, companies sell some ideas of better life, talk about transformation, and promise things that actually will never come true for most. And Marcin, what do you think about the truth, and what's more important, truth or credibility?
Well, this is more a psychological question than marketing one, in my opinion, because we are lying all the time. When I will ask you or anyone on the street for example, how many kilometers did you run today? Most of the people will enumerate the kilometers, right? And most of them will lie in the answer, because they were just walking, not running. My question was about running. We are lying all the time, so we cannot expect 100% truth. Similar, we cannot expect 100% authenticity, because this is almost the same, right? Truth and authenticity, there's the same on the same level. So I think there are small brands that are real. They're telling the truth, but still they're not telling everything. Because do you, as a customer, expect that someone will tell you how much he earns on your money, what is his margin, which is the truth for having the brand, right? Do you need this information? No, you don't want to know, because you will think that you are paying too much, right? It doesn't matter how much do you pay. It's always too much. So in the matter of fact, consumers are not expecting the truth, right?
So what they are expecting?
You are
not the
expecting
truth.
Promises. You are expecting fulfilling your ambition. You're expecting fulfilling your aspirations, but not the truth. So how to be real if no one expects the truth?
Well,
it was said, I know.
And I'll add to that. We live in a world with the fragmentation, of media, where we have fake news and misinformation like we've never had before. Like you don't know what to believe and who's telling the truth. You certainly expect an ad to be not necessarily, not lying to you or deliberately being misleading, because there are control bodies that monitor these things, and if you do that, you get fined. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's perhaps the truth is it's what they don't say. There's a lot of things that are not said.
Maybe the truth is something behind the scenes.
That's right. So I worked for McCann Erickson for 4 years, and they're not a great strategy creative agency, like some of the other more famous ones, but their motto is truth well told. Okay. Yeah. And I like that. I always like this. I always look for the truth. What's the truth of your organization? I want to speak to the leaders and hear from them why they exist and what their purpose is. And I assume that to be their truth. Okay. And I've had that conversation one-on-one with them. If I'm looking at a product, I want to know what's the bare bone essential or a service. What's the truth about this thing, and then try and build a story, a brand thing, a pitch out of that truth. But it's always got to be anchored in a truth, So I worked on some wine brands once, a lot of different wine brands. And I don't drink wine. I actually hate wine. I can't even taste it. So how do I find the truth about these wines? You got what? You got just bottles with liquid in it, Well, how do you differentiate them? And so that wine people, the wine tasters write these notes about the wines. It's like poetry. And they reach these beautiful adjectives and language to describe the wines, all that. So I used to go and find the notes, and I'd call up the notes on the different brands, and I'd build my brand thinking out of that. So like that was the truth. I didn't write that, somebody else did, but this is their great experience of drinking this wine. And then I'd kind of turn that into an archetype and then a brand positioning and the whole thing. And they were always like, oh wow, Richard, you've nailed the truths of these wines, like it's amazing how you do that. And I go, yeah. that's what I used to do in search of the truth, So I go after it and try and find it. What is that thing, that I can do and bring out? And so that's the sort of other side. But I think truth today is very, it's like, what do you believe? Who do you believe these days, It's quite a challenge. And Edelman do the trust barometer, every year, and they did this year. It came out a couple of weeks ago, the Edelman trust barometer yet again, and and truth and authenticity. And companies consumers have massive expectations of brands and companies and CEOs to actually be authentic and to actually be contributing towards making the world a better place, and playing that kind of role in our lives. And I think way back, people used to think, no, that's not the role of brands. Brands are just over there, they must stay out of, world affairs and people affairs and things like that. Well, that's really changed, really has changed. And I admire the fact that, brands get behind, social causes and social movements. But again, as we said earlier on, a lot of them do it just to look good, they're not really doing it hand on heart because this is who they authentically are. And I think you know, that's going to change. It has to change, you know, it has to. Don't you think, Marcin?
No, yes and no, again. Sorry to say that. Well, I'm just looking for the global reports, like, for example, Edelman Trust and something that is made by Havas, I mean, love brands. And from the Havas research, there is a one sentence which might be important for this discussion. 75 or 70, it doesn't matter. More than 70% of the brands could disappear. It doesn't matter at all, right? So most of the people all over the world do not care for brands. It doesn't matter they are real, they are true, trustful, sustainable, whatever. It doesn't, They don't care. From the Edelman Trust, people are believing more in brands than in governments, in medicines, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we have a global crisis.
And that's a new trend.
Of trust, of authenticity, of be real, of truth, or everything that is in the same area, in the same bowl, right? So it's really hard to say generally how it is, because someone you expect from Harley-Davidson. Do you expect something real, something which is truth, or you expect the sound of an engine, which is truth, right? But just a part of a whole motorcycle. Do you expect from a solar energy? What do you expect? Power. You not expect the truth. You just expect one simple benefit. So where is the truth? Why the company should be real when it provides only the specific service or specific product, which is real, in a matter of fact, but you don't care what is behind.
Well, but if that company is giving me electricity and they're saying it's coming from a renewable source,
of course, this is better.
I expect that. Yeah, I expect that to be true. And if that's not true, then there's a problem.
Yeah, of course. If there is a lie behind it, you catch this lie, you will try to switch to another company. Except this is the phone provider or internet provider, because you have no option, right? Or you just have 3 options like we have in Poland. So it doesn't matter which one you will choose. It's always everything is the same. So do you expect the truth? No, you expect the small bills, right? And this is your truth. As small bill as possible. Of course, it's good where company is sustainable. They are using they are energy efficient. They are using ecological energy and stuff like that. But in the matter of fact, the belief in company came from trust, which is just a part of a truth, because you don't know everything. If you will know the margins of the company, you will never buy them.
No, that's true. That's true. But if you look at trust as a thing, okay, you just go back, like 60 years, and we trusted the banks, and we trusted the priest, and we trusted the doctor, and these were like institutions that were trusted. Now, do you trust the doctor? No, I'll Google for a second opinion. Do you trust the priest? Definitely not, because he's a paedophile here in Australia anyway. And here we had a banking investigation into banking behavior, Royal Commission, and they were charging dead customers money and things like that. And it's like, all right, like, so who do you? So I've talked about the death of trust quite a lot, But you're right. In the Edelman study, there is more trust in business now than in governments and the media. It's come like a full circle, which is really interesting. Governments have behaved pretty badly around the world. In the UK, dismal. In Australia, really dismal. America, dismal, And overall, that has a net-on effect. And the media is just like, who the hell trusts the media when it's run by people like Murdoch with all these other agendas and Facebook? And it's like, and they're just pushing out negative, toxic stuff that's going to get lots of clicks and make them money, And that's where AI is coming into it. And AI is being massively misused, in my opinion, to create money for those media corporations. So, you know, the whole thing is just, it's all very, but there's a lack of legislation around it as well. It's all kind of new. It's a new era. But I think people, on the average on the street person, is pretty clued in, and they quite, they got a good bullshit meter. You know, they'll pick stuff up. They're not just going to believe everything they told and everything they see and read and hear. And I think a lot of that's to do with the younger generation as well. So I think it's still a way for this to play out. And but it's very interesting that, yeah, companies and brands are now, you know, seem to be much more trusted than all the other institutions around the place. That's for sure, which is really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always, during my strategy process with the clients, I'm asking I think the hardest question to them, because just at the beginning, I'm asking the question, who is your authority? And all of the people present in the conference room has a real huge problem to answer this question. Because we have
who is your authority?
Authority, yeah. Who do you believe? Who is your authority? Your professor, your mother, your father, or someone that is rich, or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Who is your authority? Who is your... I don't know how to explain more in English.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's really hard to answer to this question right now. When I'm asking this question to my father, he has no doubts who is authority for him personally, right?
Oh, wow.
And sometimes you
expect... So who is your authority?
Mine?
Who's your authority?
Well, there is one person who I'm quotating quite a lot. This is Mr. Bartoszewski. I can send you a link. This was well, Łukasz, help me how to describe this man in one simple sentence, because it's a complicated person with a quite inspirational history of a life. Very, very hard life, and very how to say it, heart-touching life maybe, and very smart guy with a lot of very smart quotes. I will try to translate one of his major quotes and send it via chat to you, because this is the sentence that fits our discussion absolutely 100%, in my opinion.
Okay, Marcin, but from the company point of view, why this question is so important about the authority? It leads us to what? So why this is an important question?
Because it speaks to who you trust and who do you believe, you know, and why, and therefore how can you learn from that? So like from a news media point of view, my authority here is the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. It's government funded, it's independent, it has no agenda, it's a balanced agenda. They do a really great job, and I trust the news that comes from there. I don't trust the news from the commercial stations, because they're doing it for the wrong reason, you know, and it's like they've got this other agenda, you know, and that's quite fundamental to me, and that's really, really important. Now, obviously, you know, most businesses are there, you know, not all organizations. I mean, I've branded organizations that are not for profits, you know, and it's very beautiful working for organizations like that, because hand on heart, they are well-intentioned people, truthful and authentic and honest, you know, and they really are. They have no reason not to be. But the moment money gets involved, you know, then you've got to start to balance the priorities between making money and building a business, you know, that people are going to love. And that's where there sometimes are trade-offs and things like that. And that goes back to Marcin's point about, you know, there is no 100% authenticity and truth, because there's always trade-offs. It's a business, you know, and there's always going to be compromises made some way, I guess, unless it's a not-for-profit, you know. We don't live in a world like that, though.
Okay, so Marcin,
about
sorry.
I hope I hope you see what I wrote in chat. Sorry for that. It's also via Google Translator. It sounds much better in Polish than in English because there is a wordplay in this sentence. But it means that it's worth to be real or honest, but doesn't always pay off. And all of us agree with it. It pays to be dishonest, but it's not worth. So this is my authority, and this is the guy who I believe in. And sorry to say that, but I do not believe in brands, although I love some of them, which is another way of perceiving the brands, because you can love the brand and you don't have to believe in it, right? You know there is something. Well, all of us are working in strategy in marketing business, so we are talking about margins, we are talking about communication, we are talking about persuasion, we are dealing with arguments, we are trying to find the words that are convincing to the customers and so on, right? But with the hand on your heart, are you always telling the truth? You are telling the part of the truth, right? Not everything. Because not everything is interesting for the consumers. So this is well, let's name the definition of the truth for this this discussion, and then try to find a company that fits this definition. Because if you are talking about the truth as a general word, sorry to say that, but in my opinion, there is no truth at all.
You are truly a bad guy.
Not the end of the discussion. Sorry to say
that. No, I hear you. I get that argument as well. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I like to think that it makes me feel better about what I do if I think about brands in a more positive way. Okay, so I look at brands as that there's people out there. That's how my life is. That's how I want my life to be. Let's say, and there's a gap, a massive gap. I want to slow down. I'm speeding up. I want to spend less. I'm spending more. I want to be more at peace, but I'm more stressed and busy, whatever it might be. Yeah. And so insert brand here. What's the role of your brand in people's lives, and how is it contributing in a positive way towards people's lives? Yeah, fundamentally. So I look for that truth. Okay, there are other truths about the brand that maybe aren't important and all that, but that's the kind of truth I'm looking for and go, okay, this is what it's about. Let's put that out there and make that promise. Yeah, and people can decide.
Brands should drive you somewhere.
Sorry?
Brands are to drive you somewhere, right? Giving you the path from the point A to point B without knowing what is point B, in the matter of fact. Because brand should be always aspirational. It should promise you more that you can get, in the matter of fact. There is always over-promise in the brand. This is a simple example. Any kind of beer ad you will see. There is an over-promise as a DNA of the communication and the brands, right? You will never be more brave after drinking the beer. You will be never smarter after drinking the beer. You will be never richer after drinking the beer. You will never be more clever after drinking the beer, and so on, so on, so on. But all of us want to believe in it. That it gives us something that we feel better than we felt before drinking, right? As simple as that. And this is any kind of a brand. Apple is still about the same, right?
So it's all the game of perception.
Stands behind Łukasz, you will see lighter, right? I can bet my head there is a promise behind this lamp. That kind of a promise. Lighter, brighter, whatever. Is it the truth? Somehow it is.
And you pay more for it as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
You pay more for the good feeling.
Because
Yeah.
brands are about promises, and you are paying
That's right.
mostly for promises, not for the product.
That's right. Promises, but wrapped up as stories. People
Yeah.
love stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are.
Good story.
That's why you are voting for the parties, because you are voting for promises, right?
Yeah.
After that, you are disappointed, which is another story. But still, you are voting for promises, for something which is not real.
But if you make promises as a brand, and then people are buying your product or using your service, and you're not delivering on your promises, then you've got a problem. So that's where you get held to account, you know. So there has to be something authentic and truthful about that, or else
you should deliver the promises as much as possible, right?
That's right.
If
that's
you
exactly
deliver
right.
it 100%, all of the people will buy and will never buy you again. Because you delivered. That's it. Goodbye.
For me, a critical part of...
No.
A critical part of how companies communicate and authenticity and building trust is when they're in trouble, when things don't go right, and they try and cover it up. And so it's a crisis moment. It's a crisis situation, you know, like VW had in America with the diesel stuff, you know, and they try and cover it up. And it's like, yeah, right, guys, you know, and BP did
BMW or Volkswagen? It was Volkswagen, I think.
Yeah, it was Volkswagen. Yeah. Volkswagen totally stuffed it up, and BP stuffed it up. And there's quite a few brands that have done this. And there was a story that I wrote about the other day about there was some people flying on Canadian Airlines. It was a whole crew, and the plane landed. It was like a business trip, in intercity kind of thing, and it was like the most bumpy kind of worst landing in the world. Yeah, and so the captain got on the microphone and said, "Oh, hey folks, this is Captain Jones here. I've been flying for Air Canada for 30 years. And that was the worst bloody landing I've ever done. I'm so sorry."
This is something real.
Yeah, everyone laughed and were like, "Oh my God." And then when they all walked off the plane, it was like, "Hey, there's the captain." He didn't try and make some squirrely excuse or whatever. He just owned it and copped it like it was, and so there's something in that, which I think is quite refreshing. And I think that's something that companies need to start looking at as well. How do you stand up in times of crisis? And that's when your real authenticity comes through, I think.
Exactly.
Or not.
If you're able to say, "Sorry, I fucked," or you will make it around and circles and so on. Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. Crisis is the best verificational moment for the authenticity.
Yeah, so it's acting human, it's being vulnerable, it's owning your stuff. Somehow companies have just got this idea that they can't do that. You've got to, and it's like, yeah, man, it's not good enough, guys. So yeah, it just amazes me. Some of the things that come out that organizations do. I mean, our banks here are just absolutely atrocious. They make so much money and they do so many bad things. Like at the moment, the Commonwealth Bank, they are still these people putting money into the ATMs. Now, that money is illegal drug and prostitute money that, like it's hot cash, that people are depositing $10,000 a day into ATMs, and the bank's accepting it. Yeah, right. It's like, yeah, guys, like, what do you mean? This is not good, Yeah. But it's sort of it gets mentioned in the news once and then forgotten about, move on, next thing, it's like, yeah, okay, wow, extremely disappointing. I bank with them, but the other banks, they do it as well. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
It's quite
I think we can find a lot of sectors who are lying even much more than banks.
Yeah, no, probably. Yeah. Well, like which sectors would you say? Who are the ones who lie more than banks?
Yeah,
energy.
It seems it's not the business perception, because from the 2023, if already spoke about the Edelman Trust Barometer, and it reveals that business is now viewed as the only global institution that be both competent and ethical. So the business remains the most and only trusted institution globally, which sometimes seems
more
strange
ethical. Łukasz, I have to stop.
More ethical than any other.
Than others.
Yes, exactly.
Not the ethical
Yes,
one.
exactly.
Still, there is only 60% of ethics.
Yes,
there is no
right,
100%.
No, it's still 60% exactly. And governments are 50 and media is 40 or something like that.
There is 40% of lies. Looking from another point of view, right?
Did you want to talk about AI, Lucas?
Sorry?
Did you want to talk about AI?
Maybe in a minute.
You stole my point.
One more thing, because I really believe that people, it's all about, that's what Ulrich used to say, that's all about it's the game of perception on the market. And I truly believe that people do not buy brands. People have needs and expectations, and they find someone or something that will help them to achieve their goals. And sometimes it's very strange for me, because speaking about the empathy or just seeing people, and it's strange for me that people's needs, that seeing the people's needs is the way to generate publicity still. Because I don't know if you know the supermarket chain Jumbo from the Netherlands. This chain has more than 700 stores. And introduced the new service in 200 of them, and it's called 𝗃𝗄𝗃. It's a play on Dutch word 𝗃, which means chatty. And they opened the chatty checkouts, mostly for older and lonely people, and they selected its chatty cashiers by looking for the staff members who most enjoy speaking with customers within the team. And then it generated a huge publicity. The press around the world published information about the chatty cash points. And it's always surprised me that when the companies see people, which should be normal, it generates publicity. It's something interesting. It's something huge. It's something different. So I really do not understand why there is such a big problem with this empathy, with not just seeing people, but understanding their needs and using this.
There is a simple answer, Łukasz. Because when you have 30 million customers, there is no way to satisfy each one personally. You have to segment all of them, and you will satisfy, let's say, 50%, which is tremendous success if you have that much of customers. Look at the mobile phones providers or cellular networks. Do you love them? Nobody loves them all over the world. If you will ask anyone all over the world, what do you think about T-Mobile? Most of them will tell you, I hate them because of customer service, because they do not treat me as a human being. They treat me as a number with the account. That's it. So that's why the issues like you described, this real cashiers who chat with the customers, are something absolutely phenomenal. Imagine someone from I don't know what kind of phones do you have, it doesn't matter. Imagine someone who will serve you as a person from a cellular network. You will love the company because of man behind, human being behind. Because you will be treated as a human being, not as a customer. Customer is another artificial word. Right? That is something which is very close to Richard's point. I mean, AI, artificial intelligence. Because artificial intelligence is possible that will treat us more as a humans than the people working in the companies. That's how it might happen. That's maybe artificial intelligence, maybe the really game changer from a customer service point of view, because everyone will get the real personalized answer for his question or answer for his request. I don't know if AI will negotiate with us. Not yet, I think, but it's a question of time. But it's really possible to be treated somehow like a human being, not as a customer with the pocket and with the number of the phone, right? And nothing else.
Something more than transaction. Okay, now we are speaking about AI.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, so talk about, I trust my Apple Mac brand very much until it just crashed. My whole computer just went black. And a little message came up saying, I'm sorry, there's been a problem. It's going to restart in a minute. Your computer was...
You may love it or hate it.
Your computer was restarted because of a problem. Click report to see more detailed information and send a report to Apple. Yeah, well, I'll ignore that. So sorry about that, guys. Yeah, but there you go.
Have you heard what
I've trusted for many years, and it's just let me down. I'm sorry.
I still trust Apple. I'm an Apple fan, totally.
Yeah, me too, 100%. You know, they're very expensive. You know, very, very expensive products now. I mean, the new laptops are like $3,000. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
you know?
it is.
Wow,
it is.
People still pay.
But still, we are paying for this trust.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's irrational anyway.
It is.
Okay.
There were two worlds. There was the world of PCs, and then the world of Mac came along. And the Mac world promised, you know, it wasn't about the technology. It was about the human experience. And it was making technology easy and accessible. And I think that point of difference is maybe not as extreme as it used to be, but I've always stayed with them for that reason. You know, that was the promise, that was the authenticity, and so I've always, you know, stayed true to Mac and the iPhone, and I would never swap ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Lucas.
Right.
Okay, Richard, have you heard what Marcin said before your Apple computer
crashed?
No, I might have missed it. Sorry.
Okay, what was the last thing you've heard to remember? Okay, but because we started talking about AI. Okay, Marcin, can you just repeat the last couple of sentences?
Do you think that I remember what I said? Come on.
It was a flow. Okay.
That's it.
I trust you can.
Well, thank you for your trust. It was over trust. Well, what I said, the AI could provide us more, how to say it correctly, that we'll be treated more like human beings via AI that we are treated right now from the human beings. That's the difference that could happen if AI will be implemented, for example, in the cellular phones or mobile providers or stuff like that. Yeah. So it was a follow for the Łukasz story about this shop in Netherlands. Which is I don't know if it's success. I think it's a buzz in internet about, because this is something not usual. Is it success? Honestly, I don't believe, because people are expensive, and this chat with the customers takes time. So there is no rotation in the cash desk, right? So from one point of view, it's totally different, and something which we admire and which we love, which we expect. But from the business point of view, it's a wasting of time and money. And this gap might be filled via AI, which is good.
No, I think. Well, I think the AI is definitely going to make it more personalized, you know, the whole marketing experience, the customer journey, the customer experience, right down to even the messages you get could be very personalized to you specifically. And, oh, that's all nice and all that. But there are also some red flags with AI though, some pretty big ones. So I've been branding an organization, an AI organization here in Australia. They call it Gradient Institute. They are like, they're the top guys here, and they're all very high, you know, that kind of stuff. And AI is being used everywhere. You know, governments, businesses using it everywhere. It's quite easy to use, but it's quite hard to do it well. Okay, so AI ends up with a lot of unintended consequences. So there's kind of a gap between the machine behavior and the actual outcomes you want. You know, are they fair? Are they ethical? Are they honest? Are they consistently good? You know, or are they discriminating against certain groups of people? And that's typically what's going on. So you get this situation where a lot of AI systems are not favoring certain groups, especially minority groups as well, because there's not as much data on them. And so the machine starts to make decisions and starts to learn bad habits, and then disadvantages certain groups of people, which is bad for your reputation, or is off brand when it comes to behavior and how you behave. So for AI to be done properly, there needs to be the ethical guidelines set in place, you know, and there needs to be, you can't just set and forget and just leave it. It needs to be something that's monitored and reviewed consistently to make sure you keep on top of it. Because once the system is learning something, it just perpetuates learning that, and it will reinforce the bias, and it'll just, it'll be crazy. And we've had some really, really bad examples, or good examples, but actually bad examples of that here in Australia, especially from the government, where they've used it so, like, almost illegally what they've done, you know, and it's just caused a lot of problems. So I think there's a big learning curve to go on that as well, you know, that AI can also, I mean, I think the other danger is that, you know, if you're relying on AI too much for your messaging and your comms and all that, that you lose your unique brand voice, you know, so there's still people, you know. So we've got ChatGPT, which writes copy now, and, you know, I don't know if you guys have played around with that, but I have.
Yes,
you know, write me a love poem with a broken heart, and I get these 14 lines of this, like, wow, great poem, you know. So people go, oh wow, that's going to be amazing, you know. So, but I still think that there's a human touch, you know. Back to the Netherlands example, you know, there's a human touch that's needed in technology as well. You can't just let the technology do its thing and then make all the decisions. There needs to be that human touch all the time. Is it being done responsibly? Is it ethical? Is it fair? Is it discriminating against certain people? Is it making the world better? Is it making our business better and our brand better? Not just financially better, but better from the point of view of, you know, this is our purpose. This is what we're here to do. Is it actually doing that? And that can be done, that can be achieved, but it takes more work to do that. And the feeling I get right now is that everyone's just jumping on the AI bandwagon, going mad over this thing. And I think a lot of the systems that are out there are not being that well done. That's certainly what I learned from branding these guys anyway.
I totally agree. There is such a lot of risk behind using AI. It doesn't matter if you're remodeling your face or if you are asking ChatGPT for who you are. For example, I ask who I am to the ChatGPT, and I'm an angel investor, which is very nice, but I'm not. I ask him, how do I look? I'm a Negro, which I'm not, and so on, so on, so on. So when how come it was done like that? Because of data, the AI was filled in, right? So there should be a lot of human touch, and there should be human control, because otherwise we will finish in Terminator. I mean the movie.
I know. Hasta la vista.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a Schwarzenegger. yet.
So I think it'll bring great efficiencies and revolutionize marketing and make it all more personal and everything. And oh wow, that's wonderful. But you still want to have that human touch, and you want to have ethics and responsibility and trust and authenticity come into that. But you have to feed the AI system with that information for it to behave in that way. You know what I mean? It's not going to do that naturally. You have to make sure that from the outset, you set it up that these are the goals and part of the parameters and the objectives of it. So these guys were saying to me, so if you go, so let's say we've got automatic driving, okay? So what's the problem here? So, you know, what's that a solution to? So the problem is we want cars to drive safer, okay? So let's say that's what we're aiming for. So in that case, the AI solution is the car doesn't go at all. Okay? That's the safest option, all right? Oh, but that's not the answer we want, you know? So, okay. So we want the car to go, but to be safer. So then the system will go, okay, the car can't drive faster than 10 kilometers. You know what I mean? Like, that's the next option. It's like, no, that's not going to work either, you know? And they were saying this to me, so how you pose the problem is especially important. You know, it's not, you know what I mean? In order to get the right outcomes that you want. And that comes down to brand reputation and corporate reputation as well, because your AI systems can have unintended consequences that really do damage to your brand and your company. And that's sort of starting to happen a little bit around here. There's some interesting cases floating around, and I'm sure globally it's the same thing. So, you know, that's the kind of warning there. I think authenticity and trust can be very lost if AI isn't done correctly and properly.
Yes, because it stays on statistics. It stays on the amount of data that will
100%.
fill in.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And it learns from itself in that way.
And it is, in the matter of fact, we treat ChatGPT as the most humanized machine ever. But in the matter of fact, it's the most unhumanized machine ever. If you will look properly from the statistical point of view, because it's based on the statistics, nothing else. Amount of data that was filled in. It's not a problem to hack the system via AI. Of course, first it will. I will never do something like that. But look at the internet, how many bad things you can do with the AI at this stage, and what's going to happen in the future. Well,
that's why there are a lot of people out there looking at AI and wanting to make sure the bar is raised and the standards are kept. You know, so there's good AI and there's AI for good. AI for good is AI that is making a positive impact on the world, on things, on business, on all that. You know, and that's really. They would say to, well, they have said to me that a lot of the AI money and power and brains sits in the social media companies, you know, and it's been used. It's been used to, you know, to get clicks and make money by being controversial and you know, and getting people to look at articles and like articles that are not that good for anybody, to be honest. But it's good for their business model. You know what I'm saying? So. It's not AI for good. It's good AI. It's effective and makes them money, but it's not AI for a good world. It's not making the world a better place. And so if you adopt that kind of philosophy and approach, and as a brand as well, that has to be the way to go. You know what I'm saying? And use AI in that way with that intention. You know, the intention is to start out with something that is purpose driven. You know, and it's going to make a positive difference. And there's some. I mean, there's a project happening in Australia where they're doing AI for school kids to improve their educational outcomes based on their socio-economic data and statistics of what they can learn from that. It's a massive thing, and you know, it's got years to go still and all that. But if that's for good. You know, if you can really improve the educational outcomes of kids through understanding their socio-economic and then wow, that's incredible. So that's the kind of work that's going on that maybe brands will get into doing at some point, you know, perhaps.
Perhaps. I was talking with my friend who is cardiac surgeon, about the AI, and he said that this is something extremely helpful for him to teach himself how to make a surgery, because basing on the statistics, basing on the AI has access to everything which is on the internet, right? So there is no option for him to read all the articles that were written all over the world, right? AI, there is no problem for AI to do that in the milliseconds. So if he's asking for something very specific about his profession, I mean the cardiac surgery, this is extremely useful. Of course, he will never give AI the robot to operate someone's heart, right?
No.
For the moment.
That's the
but still, he is much better prepared for the operation that he was before. Grace to AI. So there are good sides, but still there is a dark side and light side of the stuff.
That's right. But authenticity and trust and truth come into the AI as well, and how that's being used, you know?
Yeah.
So you've got to develop ethical airlines. You've got to train the AI to prioritize authenticity and truth in the way it works and the way it thinks. And you've got to monitor and review that and make sure that that's happening. And I don't think that's being done. In most cases, it's not being done.
And I think the most difficult thing for us is how to teach AI what is real, what is unreal. Because how AI as something unreal can judge what is truth and what is lie, right? Sometimes we have the problem, what is true, what is lie. So how AI could decide?
That's right. Well, what you do is you feed the AI system with examples of what is true, lots of examples, and then it learns from that. But your point is, where do these examples come from?
There will be millions of people feeding AI with the lies from another point of view, right? Not all of us are straight and proper and basing the truth.
All right. Okay. Speaking
so
about
I think
Yes. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, we seem to be in agreement that there's not a lot of authenticity or truth in branding or in marketing or in anything. Well, that's just the kind of way it is, you know.
Well, we try hard to be authentic, close to the truth. Okay, but speaking about the ethics, Marcin, sorry.
It's very hard to tell the truth. It's very hard to be authentic, but it's always good to go this way. That's my opinion.
Of course.
That's as simple as that. So it's not easy. It's much harder than anything else, but it's only good way to go.
Okay, I have the last question. I think, Marcin, you already know this question, and I'm sure you will love it. And this is the question I asked David Acker, who recently wrote a book about purpose-driven companies. So speaking about the ethics, do you think that companies will put ethics ahead of profits in the future? So even though we can earn money, we will not do this because, something. Do you think that this is the future? I know, Marcin, you like this question.
Well, I got a very simple answer for this question. They will never do.
Really?
They will, because companies are for making money. Come on. You're not establishing a company. You're establishing
we expect
foundation.
from companies something more. But still we expect from companies something more, and it's a huge expectation. So why not?
And we will expect more. We will expect more. But company is for making money. Come on. Let's be honest.
Richard,
why do you have your own company, Łukasz? To help the people? To care the children? No.
Yes, I want to help people. I really do.
I believe this. I believe that companies want to make money, but companies at the moment, they have like a 3 or a 6 month horizon. They're looking as far as their next shareholder meeting, their next annual results, and they want to hit a number. And everything else falls for that, yeah? And that's the problem. So ethics is a long play. It's a long play. Authenticity, trust, it takes years. It's a long play, you know? So if you want to play that game, like let's take Apple Mac again. You know, they've played it for years now, and they make a lot of money. But I think, you know, that's what. So branding's a long play as well. It's not something you do overnight. And if you stick to it, those will be the companies that will survive and make more money than the ones who don't. You know, and there's studies that bear that out. There's a book called Firms of Endearment, and companies that have put ethics and values and purpose and those sort of things as a priority over making money in the short term. In the longer term, their shareholders are much richer. You know what I mean? So that's what I reckon. But I'm a bit idealistic, so maybe that's not totally true. But I do believe that. You know, hand on heart, I believe that. When I go into companies and they say, so I branded like some big companies here in Australia, like finance, and they go, oh, it's all about, you know, shareholder, return to shareholder, our number one priority. And I go, no, that's not your priority at all. Your priority is to build a business people love. You know, people love working for, people love buying from, people love doing business with, people love having in their community. Okay, so call that ethics and all that. Yeah, love, trust, authenticity. And then your shareholders, that's an output. Your shareholders will be rewarded, not next year in March, but in the years to come. You know, this is a long play, and that's how you build an enduring business that's amazing and people love. That has all these things, you know. So, but the cycle in business doesn't always allow that. I mean, the average CEO is in the job in Australia for 4 or 5 years, you know, and so he or she is there. They just to make as much money as they can during that short time, get their payout. Thank you very much. I'm out of here. You know, there's not a real sense of legacy building long term in the world today when it comes to companies and how they see themselves. And I think that's where honesty and trust and authenticity and ethics and all that, it's a long term play, you know. And I believe if you stick to it, ultimately you will make more money. Maybe not in the short term, but you will in the long term, because that's what people want. That's it just seems to me. Look at the Edelman studies, look at everything, you know. People want companies to make a difference. They want them, they expect them to make a contribution, apart and not just, you know, you can't just make money. You have to make a contribution. You know, that's what people want. So I don't know. That's what I reckon.
think it's much easier. I think it's much easier to find the really ethical companies in the world of the small companies, because that's my personal perspective. Big business, it's less ethical than any kind of small business, because small business, it's much closer to the human beings, to the people. They do not have customers. They have friends. They have clients. They do not have customers. There is an even different word for naming the people who are buying from, because there are how to say good in English. I mean that small company, let's say they are employing 10 people at all. It doesn't matter how big or how small turnover do they have, but they treat every client, every human being that is buying something from them as a human being, because they do not have options. They have to act like this. So they are ethical because they have to be ethical. If you have huge business, which is international, you have millions of clients, there is no bloody way to treat everyone individually, because there is no room for that. So that's why small companies are, in my point of view, from a DNA, much more ethical than any kind of big company at all. Of course,
I agree with that.
Are on this way, and I agree with Richard that this is a really long-term play, to be real, to be ethical, to be sustainable, or any very good word that right now we have a buzzword. From another dark side of the moon is any kind of washings, because you have greenwashing, you have ethical washing, you have sustainability washing, any kind of washing you can imagine. which is, in the matter of fact, there is a dishwasher for the money, right? Because it comes to as simple as that. So
the ultimate small company is the corner storekeeper. Remember the corner storekeeper, the guy who had a shop at the end of the street? Yeah, a little corner store, sold little groceries and cigarettes and sweets and stuff. He knew you, he knew your mom and dad, he knew your sister and your brother. He used to give you little things over the counter. He was your mate. You know, that, you know, it's that kind of relationship. So sometimes I use that as a metaphor, and I say to companies, you want to try and emulate and be the corner storekeeper and make people feel special in that kind of a way, you know? So if you've got a retail shop, you have people at the door who are greeters, who say, welcome and having a nice day. And, you know, all those little high touch things can be done, you know? And I think that becomes really important as well, to the point you're saying, you know, but you're right, smaller companies more naturally seem to, they're better placed to deliver that kind of experience. Yeah. Agreed.
And they will never use AI for that.
No, they wouldn't. But the big ones will use AI to try and personalize everything and make you feel super special. We're talking just for you, Richard. It's like, oh.
Yes. And you will be happy.
And then I get on the phone for customer service and I end up speaking to somebody who lives in Manila, you know.
Yes, and they will offer you something which is a very good price, my friend.
Yeah. That's just, you know.
Okay, Richard, Marcin, thank you so much for sharing your point of view with marketers, students, and entrepreneurs as well. It was wonderful to have you both here, and thank you for this wonderful discussion.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Marcin.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
It was nice to meet you, Richard. And you, Łukasz. I met you before, so.
I met you both before, but not at once. So it was a wonderful experience. Thank you so much.
Have a good time, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.